to another episode of the After Contract Hours podcast, the show where we clock out at work to check in on the well-being of the world. As we settle into this time together, I want to extend a special invitation to explore a vital aspect of your well-being, your spiritual health. Today, let's navigate the landscape of faith and introspection because your holistic well-being is a priority to me. In the realm of comprehensive health education, spiritual well-being often takes a back seat, and today we're changing that. We are exploring spiritual health in a way that textbooks cannot capture, on a journey that stretches beyond conventional lessons by offering insights and wisdom that can only be gained through experience. This episode delves into my personal journey with faith, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. We will explore the nuances of faith, the distinction between religion and spirituality, and find solace in the recognition that a wavering faith is a shared human experience. Before we dive into the heart of today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to convey my gratitude. Thank you so much for being an integral part of my community and for joining me on this enriching journey. If you find value in what you hear today, I encourage you to share the love by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support holds tremendous significance. Additionally, if you discover that this episode may not resonate directly with you, please consider passing it along to someone who might find it beneficial. Together, we can extend the reach of valuable insights and contribute to the well-being of those around us. Hey everyone, I'm so thankful for you being here today. I'm actually recording this episode on Christmas Eve of 2023, but you may be listening to this on a different day. This holiday season has just really inspired me to want to do a personal spiritual health episode because I have quite the journey with my faith relationship, and I'm ready to share that with you, while also exploring some insightful objectives regarding this topic that may hopefully interest you. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, you guys, all of the things to help spread the word of this podcast for struggling adolescents, young adults, or anyone that you think could benefit. I also want to make note that if you've been following my journey, most of you should know that I am no expert in any particular health education category. Like I'm not, for example, for the spiritual health episode, I am not a pastor. I have no goals of becoming one. I am simply just sharing my own experience on these solo episodes to ignite some soul searching, some personal growth, thought, and some actionable advice moving forward. So you can take it, you can leave it, whatever you want, but if nothing else, if you can think of somebody that could benefit from this topic in this episode, please make sure that they get informed about where to find this. So I wanted to outline a few objectives for this particular episode on spiritual health. Number one, I really want to provide validation and understanding for you. I hope that from this particular episode, you can understand that it's normal to experience fluctuations in your faith journey, and you're not a bad person because of it. I want to assure you that you are not alone in facing ups and downs, and that these struggles with your faith journey are a shared human experience. Number two, I want to differentiate between religious and spiritual experiences. Really differentiating between the two terms, religious and spiritual, to help you understand the nuances of each. I plan to share personal experiences to illustrate the distinctions and complexities in navigating both of those aspects. And my final goal for you in this episode is to encourage soul searching and overall connection. Guys, I want to inspire you to embark on a personal journey of self-discovery and soul searching, whatever that process may look like for you. And I encourage you to define your own higher power or spiritual connection and explore the transformative impact that it can have on your own life. So the first thing I want to kind of go over is the difference between spiritual and religious, the difference of being a spiritual person versus being religious, right? Like we hear both of those terms all the time and thrown around, and there are a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I'm very spiritual or I'm very religious, right? And a lot of the times they both are utilized interchangeably, but the two concepts are quite different. The National Library of Medicine published an article by Patrick LaCour and his colleagues where they defined that two terms were very different, and they were explored with both a scientific and a psychological approach, learning that spirituality involves a personal quest for meaning in life, while religion involves an organized entity with rituals and practices focusing on a higher power or God. So, two very different terms defined from, by this published article. As you guys may know, if you've been listening to my podcast, I am almost complete with my doctoral degree in health psychology, and I originally started my studies with a high interest and passion for spiritual health and doing research on that in psychology or psychological studies and exploration with that correlation to spiritual health. My studies did not take off the way that I hoped that they did with that topic, and long story short, I ended up changing my topic, but I did do a lot of research on it. I even taught a college course on spirituality and religion and the differences between the two that was guided by a book that I fell in love with. So I'm really passionate about this stuff. But simply put, in layman's terms, just kind of how I dumbed that down from the scientific article, spirituality is somebody's personal quest for finding meaning, kind of like that soul searching aspect. Religion, or being religion involves an organized entity with rituals and practices like, honoring God, worshiping God, or a higher power, right? So when you think of religion, you may naturally correlate that term with attending church every Sunday, right? That's a ritual or a regular practice for people who may claim to be religious. So my personal experiences with both spirituality and religion are interesting, I think, to say the least. And I kind of want to give a brief background on my experiences with those two, just to kind of paint a picture of what that may look like for me, and it'll kind of, the goal of doing so will kind of guide the rest of this episode. So for me, even though I read these definitions and I've done a bunch of research on the two terms myself with my doctoral practices, I even struggle sometimes to describe which one I am. Like if anybody were ever to come up and ask me, would you say that you're more spiritual, Courtney, or are you more religious? It's not like people are just randomly asking me that, side note. But if that were ever to happen, I think I would struggle to answer that. Like in the past, I would really have struggled. I think today I still wouldn't be 100% confident to just answer that question. I'm very insecure still with my faith journey, which is so weird and annoying, might I add, because there are times and phases of my life where I just feel like I am on top of the world with my connection to God / higher power, and I am just so about it, and I talk about it with other people. I start conversations with it about that topic with certain people. And then there are a lot of times the opposite end of the spectrum where I am like hiding in a shell about the topic, and I don't want anybody to ask me questions about what my spirituality is or my faith or anything of the sort. Like it's a very weird dynamic that I have going on with that. So my point in saying that, sorry, my microphone fell down. My point in saying that really is that I would say in confidence, or with confidence today at age 32, that I feel that I'm both spiritual and religious based on my understanding of the term. I am both. I have always felt more confident voicing to people, if asked, that I'm very spiritual, as opposed to saying that I'm very religious. With confidence, I would say to people, oh yeah, like I'm extremely spiritual. I would never say to somebody to this day, yeah, I'm really, really religious. How about you? Because to me, based on my experience and my upbringing and the confusion that I had with religion and faith and spirituality for so many years of my life into my young adulthood, I just always had this impression upon me that religion equaled a cult. I always felt like religious people were very judgmental, and I'm speaking from experience on this. I'm definitely not stating a fact. So if you are very religious or if you are very spiritual, like please do not come after me. This is just my own experiences. Again, I cannot say this enough. I'm not stating any facts. I'm just going off of my reality. So, this religion kind of made it religious/religion always intimidated me, those terms, making me feel that I'm in this cult-like group that worships God in an aggressive way, making others feel judged if they didn't worship God like us believers did. So that's just kind of how I always felt growing up and about religion. And I want to explain a little bit of why. So I could be wrong on this. Mom and Dad, if you're listening, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my memory and my recollection, when I was a kid, probably age 7 to like 15, I don't know, that range. My parents divorced when I was 5, and they both got remarried. And I remember feeling when I was a kid that having faith and believing in God, particularly as the higher power, was of importance to my parents. They wanted to instill that upon us kids, right? So I remember feeling that and knowing that, and I remember being around the dinner table with my dad, and my stepmom and my stepbrother and my biological brother, and like we would sometimes say grace. Like it definitely wasn't a concrete thing that we did every time that we ate dinner. But I remember that was around, that happened. So we were aware of the fact that we needed to practice gratitude and all these sweet things about, and just the blessings that we have, right? Counting our blessings. But it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a continuous practice. I just remember that. But my dad and my stepmom, they, I believe, took us to a Catholic church when we were little kids, which, no offense to Catholic churches. Again, I know nothing about it in depth whatsoever. I'm just, again, speaking from my experience. As a child with probably ADHD and boredom out of this world, if I wasn't up and moving, the Catholic church was god-awful for me. I just remember being very bored. I remember wanting to just draw on paper, like on, all the little envelopes on the backs of the chairs. Or the pews. I just wanted to grab an envelope and draw on things. Like my mind was anywhere but present with the Lord, and with the people at the Catholic church back then. I don't even remember how many years we went to that church, but I remember just absolutely hating it. And so at that young age, I correlated church with boredom. So that was my relationship with it. And so it never ignited me. It never excited me. It never got me at a young age in a place that made me excited to genuinely learn more and grow as I got older. And I remember like my friends when I was really young, like at that age, my parents would drop me and my friends off at like a church camp or, Wednesday night things. I don't remember what days of the week they were, but I remember going to a few things, and I still remember songs from those church camps back then. But again, it wasn't consistent. And I'm not knocking my parents for that in any way, shape, or form, but I just do remember that. And my point in saying the fact that it lacked consistency was because that's most likely why it never was a big thing in my heart, and a personal pursuit, right? As I grew into my adolescence, it was not, exploring my relationship with God and growing it was never a personal pursuit of mine due to a lack of consistency. And on top of a lack of consistency, with just the Catholic church, for example, then I would go to my mom's house, and we lived in a neighborhood when I was in 3rd grade, where a Lutheran church was at like the front of the neighborhood. So most likely, if you lived in that massive neighborhood with us, everyone who attended church went to this Lutheran church. So we would go to a Lutheran church when I was with my mom on the weekends, and then I'd be going to a Catholic church with my dad on the weekends. Again, I don't remember how long that went on for, how many years of my life that happened. It wasn't like a super duper long time, but it was long enough to where it confused the heck out of me. If I was able to kind of focus and pay attention a little bit at either the Catholic location or the Lutheran location, it confused me. So there was nothing that I was taught in either setting over the years of my young childhood that really resonated with me and made me want to learn more. I've already said that, but just to paint a picture about when I was on my mom's side, that's how it was too. So never really had that like personal feeling to pursue it in a Christian sense or a Catholic sense. So, and then that just kind of stopped. Then my mom got divorced from my stepdad, and I don't remember ever going back to church with her. And that's not knocking my mom at all. She went through her own Vietnam for a very long time and was in survival mode for years after that, and was doing the best she could for us kids. So church at that time was not a priority. And I don't blame her for that. And at the time I could care less. So that never was a bother for me. But I will say on my dad's side of things, and again, Dad, if you're listening to this, love you. You and I have had this conversation many a time. So my dad's side of the things with religion was honestly what really crippled my relationship with faith during my adolescent years. So fast forward to my teenage years, we moved out to St. Louis, and that's where I went to college, in my young adolescent years. But when I was in high school, I would come out to my dad's house in St. Louis over the weekends every now and then. And we went to a Christian church, a new church out here. And with my stepmom and my dad, she was my stepmom from when pretty much she was in my life from when I was age like 6 up to like 25, 4. I don't remember. Very long time. And I remember her son, which was my stepbrother, who's amazing. He was really heavily invested in his faith and growing that, but not in a judgmental way. Like I never felt judged by my stepbrother. Like even though he was doing all this awesome work and growing his faith and on this own personal pursuit of his own, it was really inspiring to me. And I know that he always kind of painted a path for me to someday want to do that for myself, but I just never had the courage to do it whenever they were in our lives. But my stepmom and my dad during this phase of life particularly were very aggressive, in my opinion, about religion. They made me feel really guilty if I didn't come to church on Sundays. I was a workhorse. My previous episode about schedule mastery, I talk about how I was very much addicted to work. I still am. I've gotten a lot better with it today, but I was very addicted to work, and being a workhorse and grinding and going after jobs was my pursuit at that time in my life, my adolescent, early college years, late high school, early college. And so I had a job at a gym on Sunday mornings. That was the day that they really needed me. And I knew I wanted to be in the health and fitness industry, so I was, having a job at a gym was perfect. And so I worked around what their needs were, and they needed me on Sundays because nobody wanted to work on Sundays, days of rest, and I wasn't ready to rest back then. So, yeah, I worked every Sunday, and I remember, like, my dad one-on-one would positively encourage me and was not judgmental. He'd be like, all right, honey, like, when are we going to switch your schedule around and you come to church with us? But when it came to my stepmom being in the picture, to be quite honest, his energy and attitude did change, and it kind of matched hers because she was a lot more aggressive about church. And I'm not here to, like, bash my stepmom or anything of that nature. I don't want to do that. I'm just trying to paint a picture of what I was going through and like why it was so confusing and contradicting and conflicting for me at that age in my life. So yeah, I really just ultimately lacked consistency my whole upbringing with faith. So I didn't have consistency, so I didn't really even know what to pursue. I didn't know where to start. And even though I had a great dad who was constantly in my ear about, hey, quit your job on Sundays, come to church, and like reminding me to do the right thing, I think that contradicting behavior from him whenever he was with my stepmom and how it would turn aggressive and they would shame me for not being there, it was a huge turnoff for me. So then I was like, well, screw this. Like, I'm never going. Like, haha, I had that stupid attitude back then. And I do remember there was a time I was in my college years. It was Easter, and I remember my dad and my stepmom were hosting an Easter celebration where her family was coming over. Long story short, I went to church that day. We were off on Sunday for that day at the gym, so I went to church that morning, and I had been to church periodically throughout. It's not like I only went on this Easter Sunday, but I wasn't there often, that's for dang sure. But I just remember going on this Easter Sunday, and the pastor at the time was up preaching about, the significance of Easter and what it's all about. And he said something in a humorous way, like giggling and just, being playful, but he made a comment of like, I know a lot of you are here today just to get that golden ticket into being fed for that family lunch, and, you may not come all the time, and he was just kind of laughing about it. And I remember my dad and my stepmom, I felt them out of my peripherals I felt them and saw them out of my peripheral vision, like lean forward in their chairs and look directly at me, like they were judging me silently based off of that statement that the pastor made. Like they basically were saying to me, and by that look they were giving me, and y'all know that look that your parents give you, the mom look, the evil eyes, the dad look, whatever. Like, when you are being shamed, 100%, right? And I felt that instantly with everything in my being. They were leaning forward and looked directly at me. I could feel their eyes just like shooting through me like a laser beam. And I felt judged. I felt that they were like shaming me based on what he said. Like, Courtney, this is why you're here, because you just want a golden ticket. You want a pat on the back for coming so you can have a good family meal with us. And I don't know how to explain that further. Those of you who have been in my shoes, you know precisely what that feels like. And I know that at that particular time in my life, I'd been going through the ringer with my dad and my stepmom in general, with my relationship with both of them, but also with this faith issue. I was so sick of being condemned. Truly, that's how I felt. I felt judged, constantly condemned, and I was a good kid. I mean, I'm human. I made mistakes, but I was not over here just left and right doing god awful things. I was not this rebel that I was made out to feel. I ultimately was made to feel like compared to my stepbrother constantly, because in my stepmom's eyes, he could do no wrong. He was perfect, and I mean, he really was perfect to me too. He was so, and I say that with a compliment. He was absolutely incredible in every way, shape, or form. Great human being. But they made me feel so compared to him. And if I wasn't on his level, then I was not good enough. And so I had been battling that war with my dad and my stepmom for God knows how long, years. I would definitely say all of my teenage years, 100%. So to have all of that baggage already, and then it was like that day I was proud of myself for going to church, because I wanted to make them proud. Like, yes, it was on Easter. I probably was wanting a golden ticket and to get them off of my back for that day. And I think that was the ironic part of this whole story I'm telling you, because the pastor was right and that did pertain to me. But internally, I really was proud of myself. I was happy to make my dad proud of me and my stepmom proud of me, because I came to church, even though it was because I didn't have to work that day. But I really was. Like, for me, that was a big thing, and I felt proud. And to have that internal feeling just completely crushed merely by the two of them leaning forward in their seats and looking directly at me when the pastor made that comment, it was the worst feeling ever. So bad, in fact, that it caused me to get up and run out of church crying. Now, I wasn't making a scene in church. Like, I wasn't, like, sprinting out and wailing and, like, interrupting the service. But, like, I sped walk out of the building, and then as soon as I got to my car, I just broke down. I was crying. I was so upset. Again, wasn't just because of that one instance. This had been an incredibly painful thing for me for years. So I was breaking down, was so upset, and I was in college at that time, and I ran track and cross country in college, so I just went for a run. I was in really good running shape, and I just wanted to go home. I wanted to put on my running shoes. It was really nice outside, so I remember just like, taking my shirt off, running in a sports bra, and I tossed my t-shirt on the front step before I went for a run, because I didn't plan on taking my t-shirt off. I mean, if you're a distance runner, you run in practically nothing if you're a woman. And it was warm outside, so usually I always did run in a sports bra and like spandex shorts, but I had a t-shirt on originally, and last minute before I took off my run, I just took my t-shirt off and set it on the porch step. Well, I went for this run, And I don't remember how long I was into it. I remember it was a pretty good, like 4 or 5 mile run that I went on just mentally to decompress. And I was getting a phone call from my stepmom, and I didn't want to talk to her. I was so upset. So I just kept running. And when I got home, again, we were hosting an Easter party for her family, but they weren't supposed to be there until I'm making up a time, like 1 o'clock. And so it was like noon. It was something like that. Like the party definitely was not starting yet, but the people showed up early. And when I got home, I picked up my t-shirt off the front step, and I remember feeling like, oh God, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to be made fun of because I'm practically naked because I just went on a long run and my whole family is here. And I just felt like I was going to get in trouble by my stepmom. I came inside and all hell broke loose. Like I went to my room to change. There was like 10 people there already. It was crazy. And so I was trying to hurry up and go change and come out and say hi to everybody. And my stepmom met me in my room, and she just went off on me about my behavior for leaving the service. How dare you take your shirt off and just like throw it on the front stoop when you know that we have company coming over. I have a lot of tattoos. My brother is a tattoo artist and owns his own shop. He didn't back then, but I did have a tattoo at the time that was like all on my rib cage. It was a pretty big one, and I was condemned for having a tattoo because that was anti-Bible and it just looked trashy. Like it just was horrible. I had a horrible relationship with them for such a long time. So she was pissed off that I had my shirt off and I was walking in and revealing my tattoo, which by the way was like a really positive quote. It was nothing bad. And so yeah, all hell broke loose on Easter and I lost my mind. I had to like physically like not push her, but like she was getting in my face and I had to like push her a little bit, like put my hand on her arms, like get the hell away from me, back it up. So get the point, guys. Like my relationship with Faith was already not great and consistent, and then to have that pressure on top of me and to constantly be made to feel judged and condemned for like the person that I was or seemed to be in their eyes back then, it was a miserable feeling. So I was just very like turned off to ever wanting to grow in my faith at that age. So fast forward, it really did. It took my dad getting a divorce from her and, to really have an awakening. And my dad changed back to his normal self. Not that he like completely changed when he was married to her, but like she stressed him out for sure. And so like his energy changed a lot whenever we were all together versus if it was just me and him. Because if it was just me and my dad, like I could have a lot of really comfortable, non-judging, open-ended conversations about faith, and it was a really beautiful feeling. So when they got divorced, I mean, as bad as that sounds, it really was helpful for me with my faith journey. So my dad also, in his divorce was soul searching and, really heavily focusing on his faith and drawing closer to God and whatnot. So he and I got a lot closer. And he really got me back into the spirit of wanting to learn properly about what faith is and how I can grow mine and all that good stuff. So I remember that was like in 2015 at this point because I ended up wanting to get rebaptized myself because I'd been going to church for myself, no pressure added whatsoever, for about a year and a half at this point after their divorce. So it really felt organic and authentic for me to get rebaptized because it was 100% for me. I wasn't doing it to make my dad proud or my mom, you know what I mean? So I did that and it was great. And really ever since 2015 in November when I got rebaptized, I started growing in my faith. Now, far from perfect, I still have tremendous ups and downs, but it was a really bumpy road for many, 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 many years. My mom, on the other hand, like my actual mom, not my stepmom, she always raised me with focusing on being spiritual and, just knowing that there's something greater out there in the world than just ourselves. And there's so much more to life than just closed-mindedness and the things right in front of our face. She was always the parent of the two that, it sounds twisted, but like prepared me for death in a positive way. Like, honey, like whenever I die, like I want you to be happy for me. Like I'm going to be in such a beautiful place. And, I want you to know that, and, don't worry about me. And, it's going to be sad. I understand, but whatever. So she was the parent that always really trained me on how to accept death whenever it comes, because I used to be absolutely terrified of it. And my dad really helped me with the faith aspect, getting connected with God and understanding heaven and not being scared of death in that way, in that direct faith way. And my mom taught me more of it in a spiritual way, meaning like there's a world beyond the earthly world that we live in. And, we would watch movies together, like, What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams was so powerful and eye-opening when I was a teenager, that my mom and I watched together. And now today, fast forward like present day, my mom and I always watch like near-death experience shows on YouTube, and those are all about people's stories on how they actually were clinically proven dead and they went to heaven and then came back to life to tell that story today. So like we watch those all the time, and it's just a really beautiful thing. I love the dynamic that my mom and I have when it comes to spiritual concentration. And then I absolutely love the religious dynamic that my dad and I have, and even though for so many years in my life, religious and like being religious and the word religion equaled aggression and judgment, again, for me for so many years. Once removed from all of that hell, essentially, no pun intended, and the divorce and, kind of getting that judgment out of my life, my dad really helped me to redefine what religion is. And just if we circle back to the definition of it from the article that I said earlier, religion is simply having a ritual practice about a God. That's all it is. And, the word ritual can seem cult-like depending on your experience, but ritual just means like every Sunday or every morning is a ritual. You wake up and you read your devotional, or every Sunday is your ritual. You go to church together, or you watch it at home, stuff like that. Like that's all it is. But I was made to feel like it was such an aggressive, cult-like thing for so many years of my life until finally that phase was removed, and my dad and I just grew together with what religion actually should feel like and what it is. And guys, that also took a lot of me bouncing around to churches to find a quote unquote home church for myself. I got rebaptized at a church in St. Louis that at the time I was really connected to. I still love it to this day, but as I've gotten older, I really appreciate more of a small setting and an intimate setting. But the church I got rebaptized at in 2015 is huge, and it's like a party and like a club when you go in it. And at the time, I really loved that because it was very untraditional. And today I would still go to that. It's a little bit further away from where I live, so it's kind of inconvenient with my schedule. But yeah, like I said, I really just like smaller settings today. In fact, I'm really digging the watching from home. I love the idea of just being in my PJs, not having to get dressed up, have my own cup of coffee, have a donut or a bagel, whatever, sitting with my husband and my dog and just cuddling, and really inviting that message in from my couch is a really comforting feeling for me right now in my current phase of life. Being around a bunch of people, even at a small setting or a smaller church, I don't know, that sounds really bad, but in a previous episode I've mentioned that as I've gotten older, I've kind of gotten some social anxiety. I don't really care to be in massive settings if I don't have to be. And so the idea of going physically to a church and having to like stop and have conversations with people and small talk, like in my current phase of life, I just don't really want that. I want to just be at home in no distractions and just watch it from my TV in the comfort of my home. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of friends who are doing that right now, and I have a lot of friends who love the church ritual and actually attending it. And I have friends and family who really enjoy just like what I do, just sitting and watching from TV and from the comfort of their own home. And there's nothing wrong with how you choose to navigate your religious or spiritual faith journey, right? I want to now just briefly touch on how I navigated some weak phases that I've gone through week being like the word WEAK, like struggles that I've gone through with my faith journey. I've already, expressed how my views were developed over the years on faith. But really just today, where I presently am, even though I've gone through so many awesome things with faith, and like I said, I've been so strong with it, and I've been super confident, like talking to people about it and sharing my experiences with people. But right now, I'm kind of in like a weird phase with it where I feel weak with my faith. I'm not actively waking up every morning and the first thing on my mind is checking my devotional and reading things and praying. Even though I want it to be. It's the first thing I want to do when I wake up. It's just not. Like I'm not motivated to do that. And I don't really know entirely what it is. I definitely think that part of it is I have other priorities on my mind, like grading things or getting my work schedule prepared. That kind of circles back to my work addiction. That definitely is my number one issue that gets in the way of me making my devotional a priority when I first wake up. Because the truth is, guys, like if I don't do it in the morning, I will not do it the rest of the day. I'll think about it. I'll even set reminders like, hey, do it before bed. Open up your phone, your Bible app on your phone. And that reminder will go off and my alarm will go off and I'll just ignore it in the evening and keep doing what I'm doing at times. Like I'm just in a bad spot where I'm not disciplined. So when I am going through this, a couple of things that I like to do when I recognize that I'm struggling with my faith and I'm kind of like out of touch with that higher power is I openly discuss my own struggles with maintaining my spiritual and religious practices. I'm intentional about seeking people that I know would motivate me to get back into it. For example, I wouldn't talk to my brother about it. I wouldn't talk to a friend who's never been passionate about it, right? I intentionally seek people that I know would kind of talk me off the ledge and get me where I want to be. So people like my dad, one of my best friends' parents, I admire greatly. Shout out to the Roguskis for, where they're at in life with their faith journey. Like I just feel like they're so devoted to that relationship with God, and it's a really beautiful thing. And I was never shown how beautiful that relationship could be all throughout my childhood and into my college years. Unfortunately, I was, like I said, shown chaos, aggression, judgment, the total opposite of what you should be feeling. So this family and one of my best friends, the daughter of the Roguskis, she's like that too. She's just a breath of fresh air to be around and a very safe space to talk about with that. So love you, girl. So yeah, I seek out people. I work with people every day. Another one of my fantastic favorite human beings on this planet I work directly with every day. She's one of the best people that I can just go to be like, ugh, help. I don't even know what I need help with exactly. I can't even formulate the words needed to help you to help me, but I just am struggling. So like, what do you got for me, right? One of my friends that I made throughout my doctorate program, she lives in Colorado. Funny, I've never met her in person, but we've Zoomed. We talk on the phone all the time. She's like another mom to me. She is someone that I turn to. I have more or less, and bottom line, I have about 5 people that are really strong and that I admire with their faith relationship, and I will go to them if I'm really struggling. My busyness and my exhaustion just get in the way of it. That's that's the devil getting in the way of building my relationship. So things that I can do to take that busyness off my plate and that exhaustion feeling away, and once that's removed and I take those steps to remove those feelings and behaviors, I'm more open-minded and more at peace. And when I feel that at peace and that inner serenity, I am more apt to delve into building my relationship with faith in baby steps. Yeah. So those are my main strategies for what I do when I'm struggling, and I'm self-aware of when I'm weak. So guys, really like encouragement and validation with this. Fluctuating faith is a common and a very valid experience, right? Like if you're like me and you've had these ups and downs, or you've had a weird childhood experience, contradicting experience, and you're like me, like you get it 100%. Or maybe you're opposite and you had a beautiful, blissful experience and upbringing with faith, and you were taught a really healthy relationship with it. Like, love that for you. I wish I had that, but I don't regret anything, and what I've gone through has shaped me into who I am today. And I've found a church that is non-judgmental and accepting and makes me feel makes me in my journey with my faith relationships feel very validated and precious. So that's find a home church that's going to make you feel that way. And like I said, I went to many churches until I found one that I loved, and I do really appreciate my dad for that. He really was open, like after his divorce, and even during the marriage to my stepmom, there were a lot of times where he would offer to go with me to a church of my choice to see if it was one that I would like. But it was definitely whenever he got divorced that he was more available with his time, and he went with me to probably like 3 or 4 different churches, to see which one that I really fell in love with. And then I did fall in love with that one down in St. Louis, and that's where I got rebaptized and so on and so forth. So I really, big shout out to my dad during that time of my life. Was always there for me to get me going in the right direction, right? Soul searching and discovering a higher power. Guys, the significance of soul searching in your spiritual journey, that's what I did. One of my other really, really great friends, Bree, she is really passionate about soul searching. And another friend of mine named Brianna, so Bree and Brianna, so funny, 2 different people though. They both are very spiritual. And Bree, she used to live in Arizona, and I remember I went and visited her one weekend, and we went hiking, and we just sat on the top of a cliff, like overlooking the most beautiful landscape of Arizona. And I don't remember if it was in the morning or the evening, like a sunset, but it was just the most spiritual experience ever. And it really was. It was a spiritual awakening, and I needed that. And I have a lot of those moments. They say that if you get chills a lot, those are all spiritual experiences, that there's something going on inside of you that is very deep and extends way beyond just your inner self. It's connecting to a higher power. And I've done a lot of research and read a lot of articles on goosebumps. It's so cute. So I get goosebumps all the time about really powerful stuff. Just, pictures, watching people do really good things, just being good humans to other people. Just stuff like that. I get goosebumps all the time. A good book, a compliment somebody gives me, I get goosebumps all the time. So I definitely soul search a lot, and I think it's really important that at some point in your life that you do that. You do soul search. You do take time for yourself away from work, and you just do research, and you try to connect with a higher power, and educate yourself on what a higher power is and what that means, and what finding meaning in life actually looks like for you, and what that means in general. It's a really, really powerful thing. I encourage you to define your own higher power or spiritual connection. Everybody's is different, and that's okay. Whatever makes sense to you and makes you feel good and makes your moral compass feel ethical and proper is what matters, right? And people who support you and don't judge you are the ones that you need to keep around you. If you have people in your life like I did that made you feel the opposite and judged and condemned and criticized for what method you chose to put your spirituality and faith in, is very wrong in my opinion, and you don't deserve to be made to feel that way. But if you were made to be if you were made to feel that way by certain people in your life, try not to harp on it. Try to do what I did and use it as a stepping stone in your current faith journey today, in your spiritual journey today. It's a really powerful thing, and it has the potential to be a very powerful thing if you allow it to be that, and you soul search and you reflect and you grow. You can't be closed-minded in a topic like this. So all I know, guys, is that, when I am strong with my faith or when I'm weak with my faith, no matter where I'm at with my faith journey, I know that I have people in my corner that I can go to when I need that reminder of what life is all about, what our true purpose on this planet is, which is to help other people and just love on people. And, when I'm really struggling with a person, like if I feel like I'm having resentment or anger, frustration, that really brings me to my faith quicker. I'm really not someone that feels hatred ever. So if I do feel feelings of hate, it does bring me to my knees. I crumble, I cry, I weep. I don't know how to cope with that feeling and those emotions because, like I said, it doesn't happen often for me. And that brings me very close to God and my higher power and my faith because I need help with it, right? I'm a very happy person regularly otherwise. And so when I don't feel that normal feeling, I need help. And when I need help, I go to it very quickly, my faith. But one thing I just thought of, the thing that I struggled with is that whole concept of like walking by faith, not by sight. So many of us want that instant gratification and we want answers right away to our struggles when we are struggling. And a lot of people, and I'm going to put myself in the same category because I do struggle with this sometimes still to this day, and I definitely did growing up, is that we don't get instant gratification by praying sometimes. God or your higher power puts us through obstacles and through struggles so that we can learn hard lessons and we can see the beauty in the pain, and then we can use that lesson in our life moving forward to make beautiful things happen for ourselves and for other people, right? There's lessons in the pain, there's beauty in the pain. All of those quotes that you hear, rainbows come after a storm, right? I'm going to grab a drink of water real quick. Yeah, like we have to go through hard things to figure out the resilience factors of it. And during those hard times are when we can start to realize that we need to rely on something much bigger than ourselves, because the truth of the matter is we are brought to our knees quite a lot in this life. And if you haven't yet, I'm sure you will be. I mean, I don't wish that upon anybody, but we will hit our rock bottom. We will go through our Vietnams and our hell, and we need to look to something or someone that is greater than ourselves, because the truth is we can't do it by ourselves all the time. We just can't. So my hope is that you have experienced that yourself and you realize that, you see that, and you soul search during those times. And really the purpose of rituals, right, with religion is that you're essentially just simply training yourself to not just seek this higher power or seek this spiritual force when you're struggling, because when you do that only, it's much harder to build that relationship and to build that strength in your faith. So we develop these rituals of going to church or reading our devotionals or whatever that may look like for you to connect with God or your higher power. So even through the good times, right? Being grateful, worshiping when you're grateful, when you're at your happiest days, as a reminder of like, wow, like thank you so much, like universe, thank you so much, God, for helping me to get the dream job, the roof over my head, having a healthy baby, having my family member fight and beat cancer, whatever it may be, rejoicing in the good days. And the more we can do that, the easier and more natural it is to rejoice during the bad days, and the stronger our faith and resilience will be during those hard times. That's how I look at it. That's what I've gotten out of faith and my educational journey with it over the years. So even when I'm struggling like I am right now, to be honest, and I'm not as disciplined with doing all the things to strengthen my faith relationship, that's what it takes is the rituals and the practice to get me stronger. So I encourage you to be open-minded to create your own rituals. And your ritual may start off with one time a month you go to church, or one time a month you do a devotional, or one time a month you have a conversation with someone that you don't feel judged by on this spiritual health topic, right? And as you grow in your security with that topic, it may be twice a month you are actively pursuing education and growth in your relationship with spirituality or religion, right? And then the more you do it, the more it becomes a habit, and habits create character, which is a really beautiful thing. And then again, you will fall out of habit, so you need to have a social support system. There are support groups in churches that you can go to, or just find those people in your corner and in your circle that you can rely on to help get you back where you need to be. As a matter of fact, as soon as I finish this episode, I look forward to expressing my gratitude to those people that I shared earlier about, those 5-6 people in my life that are really, really profound mentors in my spiritual health journey. I'm very, very grateful for it. So yeah, I may be struggling right now just like you, or you may be somebody who's not struggling at all and you just wanted to hear my struggles. So just know that, to get where you may be at in such a beautiful place with your faith, I envy you for your consistency, but I am also so in awe of people like you who have this confidence in praying for other people, and just being steadfast and immovable in your faith is truly a goal that I have and I would like to grow within myself. So thank you if you are someone like that, thank you for being the mentor and the role model that you are for people like me who look up to you. Thank you for not being judgmental. Thank you for being open-minded. Thank you for being you and so steadfast and immovable in your faith. And I look forward to the growth that I will continue to do. And if nothing else with this episode, I just hope that I can be validating and letting you know that you're not alone. And if you guys have any suggestions on more content for this type of episode with spiritual health, please shoot me an email. All of my information is going to be shown on the video when I end this episode, when I talk about my Level Up application. So please feel free to reach out to me. Give me your feedback. I'm excited to continue to grow on not only my spiritual health journey, but also this podcast journey. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I wish you all of the health and wealth and joy over this holiday season. And hey, Merry Christmas. Thanks, guys. Before we wrap up this journey into the realm of spiritual health, let's level up together with 5 actionable takeaways. Number 1, reflect and connect. Take a moment to reflect on your own spiritual well-being. How can you deepen your connection to your faith or belief system? Number 2, practice gratitude. Cultivate a daily practice of gratitude. Recognize the blessings in your life, both big and small, to nurture a positive and fulfilling spiritual outlook. Number 3, seek spiritual mentorship. If you're unsure where to start or feel the need for guidance, consider seeking a mentor on your faith journey. Connect with someone whose wisdom and experience aligns with your spiritual aspirations. Number 4, embrace mindful practices. Incorporate mindfulness into your spiritual routine. Whether through prayer, meditation, or contemplative walks, find moments of stillness to center yourself. And number 5, share the wisdom. Extend the conversation beyond this episode. Share your insights and experiences with someone you trust, or invite them to join us on this podcast journey together. Thank you once again for being here. Your presence adds depth and meaning to this community. If you found value in today's exploration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support is the heartbeat of this podcast. Also, I'm eager to hear from you. Reach out via email or Instagram to share your thoughts, feedback, or suggest topics that you'd love to explore together. Your input shapes the future episodes of the After Contract Hours podcast. Until next time, take care, stay inspired, and keep evolving. Your well-being matters, and within it, you hold the extraordinary power to shape a life of purpose and fulfillment, which I am by your side for every step of the way. See you next week.